let me remind you of the execution of Damiens. After his unsuccessful attempt to assassinate Louis XV, now deceased. Remember how Damiens died? How gentle the guillotine is compared with his torture? It lasted for 4 hours while the crowd goggled. And at an upper window, Casanova felt under the skirts of the ladies watching. His chest, arms, calves and thighs were slit open. Molten lead was poured into each slit. Boiling oil they poured over him, burning tar, wax sulphur. They burnt off his hands, tied ropes to his arms and legs, harnessed him to 4 horses and G'd them up. They pulled at him for an hour, but they'd never done it before, and he wouldn't come apart until they sawed through his shoulders and hips. So he lost the first arm, and then the second. And he watched what they did to him and turned to us and shouted so that everyone could hear. And when they tore off the first leg and then the second, he still lived, though his voice was getting weak. And in the end, he hung there, a bloody torso with a nodding head, just groaning and staring at the crucifix which the father confessor was holding up to him. That was a festival with which today's festivals can't compete. Even our Inquisition gives us no pleasure nowadays, although we've just started. There's no passion in our post-revolutionary murders. Now they're all official. We condemn to death without emotion, and there's not a singular personal death to be had. Only an anonymous, cheapened death, which we could dole out to entire nations on a mathematical basis, until the time comes for all life to be extinguished.
Citizen Marquis, you may have fought for us last September when we dragged out of the jails the aristocrats who plotted against us, but you still talk like a grand seigneur. And what you call the indifference of nature is your own lack of compassion.
Now, Marin, you are talking like an aristocrat. Compassion is the property of the privileged classes. When a pitier lowers himself to give to a beggar, he throbs with contempt. To protect his own riches, he pretends to care, and his gift to the beggar amounts to no more than a kick. No, Mara. No small emotions, please. Your feelings were never petty. For you, just as for me, only the most extreme actions matter.
If I am extreme, I am not extreme in the same way as you. Against nature's silence, I use action. In the vast indifference, I invent a meaning. I don't watch unmoved. I intervene and say that this and this are wrong. I work to alter and to improve things. The most important thing is to pull yourself up by your own hair, to turn yourself inside out and see the world with fresh eyes.
Maras liturgy.
Remember how it used to be. The kings were our dear fathers, under whose care we lived in peace, and whose deeds were glorified by official poets. Piously, the simple-minded breadwinners passed on the lesson to their children, and their children repeated that lesson. Suffer! Suffer as he suffered on the cross, for it is the will of God! And anyone believes what they hear over and over again. So the poor, instead of bread, made do with a picture of the bleeding, scourged and nailed up Christ, and they prayed to that image of their helplessness. And the priest said, raise your arms to the heavens, bend your knees and bear your suffering without complaint. Pray to those who torture you, for prayer and blessing are the only stairways which you can climb to paradise. And so the poor were chained down in their ignorance, so that they couldn't stand up and fight against their bosses, who ruled in the name of the lie of divine right.
I must again interrupt your arguments. We are going to make some cuts in this passage. After all, nobody now objects to the church, since our Prime Minister is surrounded by high-ranking clergy, and since it's been proved over and over again that the poor need a spiritual comfort. There is no question of anyone being oppressed. Quite on the contrary, everything is done to relieve suffering through clothing collections, soup kitchens, medical aid, and in this very institution, we are dependent not only on the goodwill of the temporal government, but even more and more on the goodness and understanding of the church.
If our performance causes aggravation, we hope you'll swallow your indignation. Please remember that we show only things that happened long ago. Remember, things were different then. Of course, today we are all God-fearing men.
I hate him! I told you! But I kingdom comes, what is what we got? On earth as in this house! And then they pass from the lead us! There's instant justice! There's another!
Remember, you have just seen was indeed unavoidably foreseen by our playwright who managed to compose some extra lines should the need arose. Please remember that this woman was the once well thought of habitress of a convent. It should remind us that, as they say, God, like man, moves in a mysterious way.
Before deciding what is wrong and what is right, we must first find out who we are. I do not know myself. No sooner have I discovered something than I begin to doubt it and I have to destroy it again. What we do is just a shadow of what we want to do. And the only truths we can point to are the ever-changing truths of our own experience. I do not know if I am hangman or victim, for I imagine the most horrible tortures, and as I describe them, I suffer them myself. There is nothing I could not do, and everything fills me with horror. And I see too that other people suddenly change themselves into strangers and are driven to unpredictable acts. A little while ago I saw my tailor, a gentle, cultured man who liked to talk philosophy. I saw him foam at the mouth and screaming, attack with a cudgel a man from Switzerland, a large man, heavily armed, and destroy him utterly. Then I saw him tear open the breast of the defeated man, take out the still beating heart, and swallow it.
A mad animal. Man's a mad animal. I am 1,000 years old, and in my time I have helped commit 1,000,000 murders. The earth is spread. The earth is spread thick with squashed human guts. We few survivors walk over a quaking bog of corpses, always under our feet. Every step we take, rotted bones, ashes, matted hair, always under our feet. Broken teeth, skulls split open. A mad animal. I'm a mad animal. Prisons don't help. Chains don't help. I escape. Through all the walls, through all the shit and the splintered bones. You'll see it all one day. I'm not through yet. I have plans